we have to make sure that the incentives to invest and to hire in the United States are at least as good as the incentives in other countries.
This is At Brookings, a weekly in-depth look at the issues behind the news. This week, promoting jobs through small business.
Whether it's a local mom-and-pop enterprise or a fast-growing gazelle like Google, much of the American workforce draws its paycheck from businesses that started small. Noting that this sector is critically important to the economy, lawmakers passed a $30 billion tax bill to help fortify small businesses, create new jobs, and spur economic growth. Senior fellow Martin Baily takes a closer look as he underscores the need to keep small businesses in business.
Small business are not really hiring that much. Obviously, there are some individual businesses that are hiring, but as a group, they are not providing the kind of job creation that we are hoping for in order to get a stronger recovery. So what the president has done is suggested various measures along the way, various forms of either tax cuts, provisions to help them with health care if they provide health care for their employees, accelerated depreciation or actually expensing of capital spending, and proposed tax cuts that reduce their payroll taxes, various items that will help them grow a little bit faster.
Martin, in your paper you make a number of recommendations about how to bolster small businesses in this country, and one of the things you recommend is improving access to public and private capital. Explain that for me.
Economic growth is often very slow in a recovery following a financial crisis. And one reason is because if the financial sector is damaged, it tends to make it more difficult for what we sometimes call the real sector, jobs and output, to grow because they don't have adequate access to the funding they need for inventories, for expansion, and that kind of thing. So there's a particular need to access capital as a result of following the financial crisis. What we recommend is that the Small Business Administration be given additional money, which they are being given, so that small business loans can act as a catalyst for private sector loans.
Another recommendation is to re-examine the corporate tax policy. What is that about?
What we need to do is to look hard at the corporate profits tax and come up with ideas that will at least maintain the revenue that it's making now, but do it in a way that provides less of a problem in terms of incentives to expand. So we, in the words of economists, and you may have heard from our colleague Bill Gale, we want to expand, broaden the base and lower the rate on corporate taxes in order that it become less of an incentive.
The paper also suggests that in order to bolster small businesses, we have to rethink our immigration policy. Is that right?
There's a proposal that a lot of people have made, which is if you get a PhD or an MBA or something like that in a field that's in demand, then let's give that person an H-1B visa. Obviously, we had to do the normal security checks and so on, but basically the presumption should be that they can have the ability to work in the United States. People look at the unemployment rate and they say, how can we let more people into the United States when the unemployment rate is so high? But I think that's a mistake. I think that doesn't recognize the role that skilled people play in generating business expansion and consequently more jobs for Americans. So I don't think it's a displacing American workers issue. I think it's really expanding opportunities for Americans.
If something isn't done now, what happens?
But at this time, it's particularly critical that we get growth and employment going as fast as we can, that we do everything we can that we think will pay off to generate more economic growth. So it's just a matter of doing it as well as we can and getting growth as quickly and as strongly as we can, rather than just waiting for the private sector to do it. And by the way, part of what government can do at times is to get out of the way. Sometimes there are regulations that make it more difficult for small businesses. We have to make sure that those are done as efficiently as possible and we don't stand in the way of new businesses growing.
Martin, thank you so much for joining us here today.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Gigi Hinton. We'll see you again next week at Brookings.
Stay up to date with the latest research, learn about Brookings events, and search our directory of experts, all from your mobile device. To download Brookings for your BlackBerry, Android, or iPhone, go to brookings.edu/mobile.